landscape and travel in the bush of Zambia. The dominant natural vegetation of Zambia is the typical open canopy savanna woodland of the fire climax type. It will regenerate after clear-cutting or forest fires within about 30 years with little change. Practically all the trees are of the various hardwood species, but due to the few straight trunks, are not well suited for structural timbers or even boards. The grass cover in the savanna would range from 4 to 12 feet in height, depending on local conditions of the soil and subsurface water level. Most of it will be green for 4 to 6 months a year, but it is tough and not well suited for livestock. The few major floodplains have short grass and support large numbers of cattle and game. The taller, straight-stemmed grasses are very useful for the roof thatching of native huts and other structures, though will contain many insects and even small rodents. But that appears to be of little nuisance to the rural population, and the thatch could be replaced easily every few years. Travel through the savanna woodland offers reasonable visibility provided the vehicle is tall enough, but the lack of good roads is a major problem. Temporary roads, generally neglected, are made by cutting off the trees a few inches above the ground with an axe. That works all right until the rains, when the track for the tires will deepen in the mud and the vehicle may be brought to a jarring stop due to the axle or transmission hitting a stump sticking up. Various other road hazards may be encountered along the main roads, but only in a few areas outside the game parks and forest reserves. As should be expected, in the bush, road signs are generally non-existent. Hence, up-to-date information about the countryside, while highly desirable, is seldom available. On research trips, a camp may be set up at any convenient location, preferably close to available water. Conditions in the bush lack the usual amenities, but there is little danger from wild animals, though some poisonous snakes, like the mamba, are found over most of the savanna. In addition, ants, flies, and a host of other small intruders may make a good night's rest a rather remote possibility. The savanna landscape has innumerable termite mounds in very different shapes and sizes. The termites live underground except when chewing on wood or similar vegetable matter. On large mounds, like the one shown here, the upper part of the hill contains the ventilation channels to conduct the heat upward. The living quarters for the termites may extend down to 10 feet or so, housing upward of 100,000 or more, depending on the size of the hill. Some of the hills may be temporarily abandoned and then recolonized for whatever reason. The twin hills shown here do not attest to an argument between the termite queens, but show simply a variant of the structure, perhaps to keep the hill relatively low. During the day, the termites stay underground to escape the heat, and overall have little danger from intruding animals, as the hill soil is very hard. Some species of termites build small structures only, and there may be 100 of these over an acre. Termites do not damage the crops planted by the natives. The soil of the hills is of remarkable fertility, and on occasion it may be leveled, but such labor is very hard to plant crops. On a trip to the bush, I encountered a very unusual scene in the eastern part of Zambia. A major triangulation survey marker has been erected on a concrete base placed on a hill with good visibility up to 5 miles or so. Some years later, termites have undermined the base of the hill, and the marker was tipped considerably to one side. Due to various reasons, the marker was not visited after it was set up. Consequently, various surveys using it were way off in measurements, but such a problem is a minor nuisance in the bush of Zambia. In the southwestern part of Zambia, the climate is approaching semi-arid conditions, and the baobab tree appears here and there. It is a massive structure containing considerable water inside the trunk, but it is not tapped by the natives, as it would destroy the tree. Occasionally, pegs may be driven into the trunk and a bucket lowered from above, but the region is very sparsely inhabited. Travel in the bush of Zambia is a slow affair, due partly to the poor roads and many seasonal watercourses, which may be flooded occasionally during the rainy season. Major streams would have some makeshift ferry arrangement, while the smaller streams may be crossed under normal conditions. A sudden rain will cause water rise rapidly, a challenge to the impatient Westerner. The road here had no indication of the water level, and is an adventure to test the fording ability of an all-terrain vehicle advertised to be able to handle extreme road conditions. That may not be the case in all instances, especially in Africa. Driving into the deep water with muddy bottom has stopped the engine. Then there is a wait until people appear from somewhere to help rescuing the stranded Land Rover. Offering a few cigarettes or so will be considered adequate reward for witnessing the European stalled, and then the trip continues with a memorable day for the newcomer. In general, travel in the bush is not dangerous if one uses common sense and plans for adequate time. It also helps to have a competent interpreter, as few people speak good English, and in Zambia there are some 39 languages, many applying to a limited area only. English, the official language, is spoken and understood well by only about 15 to 20% of the people living in the towns and cities in general.